After the fall of Anakin Skywalker, the death of Padme, and the destruction of the Jedi Order, it truly seemed as if there was nowhere for the newborn Luke and Leia to go safely. Obi-Wan, still tired and sore from his intense battle with Anakin on Mustafar, helplessly held the two infants of the man that he believed he had just killed and watched their mother die on the table. While all of this seemed horrible beyond belief, Obi-Wan and Yoda recognized the offspring of the Chosen One were a ray of hope in the bleak darkness. They would inherit the force potential of their father, or at least some of it, perhaps making them the two most powerful children alive in the galaxy in that moment. It was much safer to split them up, so if Vader ever found them, at least he would only find one. Obi-Wan knew exactly where to take Luke so that Vader would never be able to locate him, and Obi-Wan had the intention of training the boy to be strong in the Force from a young age, and he had encouraged Yoda to take the girl, raise her, and train her himself. But Yoda stopped this whole plan directly in its tracks, and Yoda refused to train Leia. In today's Holocron, my friends, we are going to be diving into the Legends Revenge of the Sith novelization and discover why Yoda refused the opportunity of a lifetime and turned down the offer to take and train Leia from childhood, as well as why he told Obi-Wan not to train Luke. But before we get started, we'd like to thank today's sponsor, Sterling Pacific Luggage. As Ahsoka prepares to venture out of the Star Wars galaxy as we know it, she'll need some sturdy baggage to accompany her. Sterling Pacific's state-of-the-art aluminum cases have been perfected to suit pilots and frequent flyers just like Hera and Ahsoka, and have been fitted with 50-52 aluminum, A30 aluminum corners, and impact-bearing ridges for optimal security and stability. Rather than using the normal cheap plastic parts with an aluminum base, Sterling Pacific prides themselves on their use of high-quality metals in all of their components, including the trolley handle and the wheel housing. Pair this with the state-of-the-art Italian leather handles and two oversized wheels for maximum control, and you have a suitcase capable of traveling through hyperspace. These cases are not only well made, but feel incredibly professional to carry, and are certain to protect the luggage of any intergalactic traveler. If you use our specialized code STUPENDOUS, you'll receive $300 off your order, so be sure to check out Sterling Pacific today. All jokes aside, this is a premium quality suitcase, and if you want to protect your luggage as you travel from across the world, or even just across town, Sterling Pacific is a great choice, especially if you've seen those videos of people throwing luggage around. Anyway guys, thank you so much for staying tuned for the sponsor as it helps support the channel, and now let's get into the topic today. The idea that Yoda had turned down all of this was baffling at first. It would only make sense for the last two Jedi Masters in the galaxy to individually take and train the children of Skywalker. It would be their only hope to stopping the two most powerful beings in the galaxy, the beings of Vader and Darth Sidious. The math could not have been more perfect, and we know from the Legends EU timeline that when Leia did start training in the Jedi ways, she was quite powerful and excelled very quickly through her studies until hitting a roadblock. Despite having to split her attention between being a politician, a mother, and a Jedi, Leia progressed to knighthood at an incredible rate, very becoming of the child of Anakin Skywalker. Although Leia would never reach her full potential in the Force like Luke would, she was a force to be reckoned with in her own right. Her abilities made her quite possibly the second most powerful Jedi of the era behind Luke, and she was extremely proficient with the lightsaber just like her father. But it would be Leia's perfection of battle meditation, otherwise known as Force Harmony, that helped Luke defeat the resurrected Palpatine, and Leia would single-handedly duel and kill Baldorian the Hutt, a very powerful dark Jedi with hundreds of years of experience, with Leia defeating them because of her sheer command of the Force itself. Had Leia been trained since childhood, it is likely that by the time of Return of the Jedi, she would have been exhibiting feats in the Force that would firmly put her on the level of a High Council member. And so would Luke. But Leia's training under Yoda would be different, who would be a guiding hand, and who would invest her in the ways of the living Force, teaching her the mysticism and connectivity of all life. Leia was already a very introspective person, and would have undoubtedly spent hours, days, and weeks in meditation just to understand the Force in a richer way. Her empathy and connection to life, a trait that she developed despite never undergoing formal Jedi training at the time, would have made her exceptionally aware of the will of the light side. If anything, she would have turned out to become a candidate for the position of the daughter of Mortis by the time she reached mastery. Surely, a pure beam of the light would be able to match the darkness of Darth Sidious, especially alongside her brother Luke. So why in the world did Yoda refuse to train and raise Leia? His decision was a simple one, but extremely important. Yoda didn't want to strong-arm the children into their destiny. After everything Yoda had witnessed, he knew that the children of Skywalker needed to be raised with love, a familial love that neither he nor Obi-Wan could ever truly give them. Obi-Wan had suggested to split them up and train them separately, but Yoda interrupted him with a simple no. A shocked Obi-Wan questions the Jedi Grand Master. If they are not trained, then how will they ever learn the Jedi disciplines and master the ways of the Force? Yoda pauses for a moment, but then says this: Jedi training, the sole source of self-discipline, is not. When right is the time for skills to be taught, to us the living Force will bring them. Until then, we will wait and watch and learn. As a side note, I want to talk about how this quote shows us how much Yoda has learned. For a long time in these archives, we have done holocrons all about Yoda's mistakes and shortcomings, to the point where our scholars began to question whether or not Yoda was even a good Grand Master to begin with. Even after the fall of the Jedi Order, he is stuck in some of his old ways and wants Luke to let go of his friends and everything he cares about for the sake of the Jedi. But it is here that we finally get to see that despite this all, Yoda shows his wisdom and willingness to learn at such an old age. In spite of being the Grand Master of the Jedi Order for nearly 800 years, Yoda openly says that their ways are not the only path to discipline. He advocates for the use of the Jedi way, of course, but Yoda is willing to admit that their ways are not perfect, and clearly was shown with their failures. He is confident that the Force will guide the children to receiving the knowledge they need to equip them for the future. And that's when Obi-Wan says that the living Force will guide the children to Kenobi and Yoda when the time is right. A sentiment that sounds like it came straight from the mouth of Qui-Gon Jinn. At this point, Yoda has been in deep contact with the ghost of Qui-Gon, with Qui-Gon teaching him things about the nether realm of the Force that Yoda had no idea about, discovering the many deeper mysteries. From this training, Yoda has grown immensely, and he has now taken on a brand new understanding of the Force itself. Finally, he lets go of doctrine and loosens his tight grip around the control of the children's destiny. He doesn't let Jedi dogma decide their course of life, but the Force itself, which is the only thing that can truly ever overthrow Vader and the Emperor. Yoda here plans to continue learning as he tells Obi-Wan. The truth is, Yoda knows the way of the Jedi failed Anakin the most, and the lack of understanding that they had for the love he once had been given was one of the key contributors to his fall. What's shocking here is Obi-Wan at first literally recommends that they train them in the same way that Anakin should have been trained. It was this very phrase that caused Yoda to stop him, and with a firm no. Yoda could see that if they went down that path again, they would have learned nothing. The Skywalkers are immensely powerful beings, and because of that, they need to have love to balance them out. The Skywalkers are a special case. If they are trained as emotionless Jedi and taught to repress their emotions, they become extremely volatile and dangerous, manipulated by darker presences. Only those Jedi who truly knew what it meant to love would be able to resist the call of Sidious and Vader. Many times the Sith and the dark side has used love against Jedi, but in the case of Luke, he uses his love for his father for the path of righteousness. Yoda learns that Skywalkers cannot be contained, controlled, guilted, or strong-armed into their destiny. They have to find it themselves, and only the Force can decide that. It would turn out that despite Leia not reaching the insane potential she could have, her impact on the galaxy came in a far more meaningful way. What the galaxy didn't need was another Jedi. They needed hope in a governmental system. The rebellion needed a leader, one who would unite them together against the tyranny of the Empire. Princess Leia Organa, the woman who had her entire home obliterated by the Empire, did not back down when that happened. She didn't bend the knee or run off and cry in a corner. Her resolve became ironclad, and she pushed harder than ever before to topple the regime. Had Leia been trained as a Jedi, this would have never happened. This was not the path that she chose, and it was equally important that Luke also choose to decide to become a Jedi or not. Leia may not have been able to contend with Sidious in the realm of the Force, but she was certainly a match for him politically. While Mon Mothma could unite the causes of independent worlds towards the Alliance, it was Leia who went on the attack for the Empire. Luke chose the path of the Jedi. He came in and inspired hope of a different variety. As a Jedi, it made the rebellion feel stronger, even invincible at times. But having said that though, they didn't place the foundation of their hope in the Jedi. Otherwise, they would have only been regressing to the state of the Old Republic during the Clone Wars. Leia created a resolve within the hearts of the rebels based on their own conviction, not because someone with a lightsaber was leading the front lines. The rebels were a bold group ever before Luke Skywalker gave them ultimate confidence. This was why the rebellion succeeded, because of the fact that Luke, who wasn't all powerful or even moderately experienced, could depend on and rely upon his friends in the rebellion who had a strength all their own. A true stroke of brilliance from both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Grandmaster Yoda. But anyway, my friends, this was truly why Yoda refused to train Leia, as well as why he forbade Obi-Wan from training Luke. I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and if this was something that you were wondering about, let us know if this answered any of your questions. Until next time, my friends, may the Force be with you.